Too many scales can make your solo sound stiff and boring. But running pentatonic licks isn't all that interesting either. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way to play the changes without having to learn a lot of scales, arpeggios, and theory? Well, the good news is that there is. Stay tuned, and I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Dr. George with Jumpstart Jazz Guitar, helping busy adult guitarists play better music. Everything you need to know without all the noise. Before we get started, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Today, we'll be looking at guide tone lines. Now, if you've already learned how to play shell voicings, and especially if you can play them without the roots, you're way ahead of the game. And if not, you'll want to download my free guide, Jazz Chord Mastery Volume 1, which includes those basic forms and a lot more. Just click the link down below in the description. Shell voicings provide more than just solid chords for your comping. They also clearly outline the way the chords in your progressions resolve. This is one of the keys to making the changes in your solos. So what you're going to learn today is what guide tone lines are and how they work, how to play them through common chord progressions, and then how to start using them in your solos. Now let's look at what guide tones are. Guide tones involve the thirds and the sevenths of the chords, and they outline the resolutions of the chords. So in a guide tone line, if we were using a 2-5, A minor 7 to D7, what happens is that the seventh of the 2 chord resolves down by step to the third of the 5 chord. The third of the 2 chord is held as a common tone and becomes the 7th of the 5 chord. So. Now, if we continue that to the 1 chord, it reverses. The third of the 5 chord is held as the common tone, becomes the 7th of the 1 chord, and the 7th resolves down by step to become the 3rd. And so our chord outline of the 2-5 is simply this. And it means that what we have is 2 possible lines. Now let's look at some examples. We'll start out with Autumn Leaves, key of G minor. And it's a circle progression, so it means that all the chords are moving down a 5th, which is going to make a very easy guide tone line. So I'm going to go ahead and play the shell voicings first. And now without the roots. C minor, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major, A minor, D7, G minor 6, and G7. And as you can see, those were moving very, very smoothly. So if I start on either one of the notes, what we're going to do is we'll be alternating between the thirds and the sevenths when it's moving down a 5th. So if I start on the 7th, it'll resolve down to the 3rd, becomes the 7th, resolves down to the 3rd, becomes the 7th, resolves down to the 3rd, resolves down to the 6th, and then up to the 7th. And if we start on the 3rd, same basic thing will happen, but it becomes the 7th, resolves down to the 3rd, becomes the 7th, goes down to the 3rd, becomes the 7th, down to the 3rd, and then up to the 3rd. So we have 2 easy basic guide tone lines that we can follow, and we're just going right down the neck. So now let's take a look at a blues. Okay, we'll play in B flat. Okay, so against the shell voicings, here we have a 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, and then 4 chord, back to the 1 chord, and now we'll go to the 5 of 2, 2, 5, and then 1, 6, 2, 5. Now without the roots. And again, we can make these single note lines too. Okay, so we'll start on the 7th of the B flat chord, and it goes to the third of the E flat chord. We're back to the B flat chord again, so we're just kind of going back and forth here a little bit. All right, now the next one here is a little bit interesting, okay? We're going to go from B flat. Now the next chord is a G7 chord, that's down a third. Problem is that there is no stepwise motion to that chord because the third is a minor third up or augmented second if you prefer, and the F is a minor third down. Sometimes that has to work. So we'll go ahead and go down to that F. And then we have the E flat on the C minor chord. E flat is the seventh of the F7 chord. And then we resolve down to the third of the B flat chord. We're at B flat, and we're going to a G minor. Okay, so that's up a sixth or down a third. So again, we have to decide where we want to go. We'll go up a minor third there, and to the third of the C minor chord becomes the seventh of the F7 chord, 1. So once again, and there's our guide tone line. And of course, we can do it again, starting on this note too. So the last progression we're going to look at is moving by step. Now, these are just a little bit different. First, we're not really going to be resolving down necessarily. And then the other thing that's going to happen is that because they're moving by step, it means that if we start on the seventh, all of the notes in the guide tone line will be on the seventh. If we start on the third, they're all going to be on the third. So let's look at a progression like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Here's a tritone sub, another tritone sub, and then 1. And once again, now without the roots. Now you may have noticed on the way up, those were all fifths. The chords change, major, minor, minor, major, but the distance between the third and the seventh is the fifth all the way through. So now if we play these as guide tone lines, it's going to... Now on the way down, the G of the E minor chord stays and becomes the third of the E flat chord, and we move down by step. The third of the D minor chord becomes the third of the D flat chord, and then the third. And of course, we can start on the seventh and do the same thing. So guide tone lines are pretty simple. You start on either the third or the seventh of a chord, and then you move to the third or the seventh of the next chord by step or by common tone. And if you can't do that, a third is okay too. So let's look at a couple of ideas now on how to make use of this. And first thing you can do is just simply add some rhythm to it. So in our blues here, we could be playing something like this. So just adding some rhythm starts to make it sound a little bit more interesting. But we want to go beyond that. So you can also use both guide tone lines. And then from there, you can start to just simply add notes. Add them one at a time. from there. So I'm sure you can see how guide tones can help you start making the chord changes. They outline the resolutions of the chord progression. And what's great about them is they're part of the shell voicings. You don't really need any theory to figure it out. As long as you know the shells, you can find the guide tone lines. And they automatically handle chords that are outside of the key. So one last thing to say, though, about them is that you should use them, but don't overuse them. You don't have to make every chord change, and if you do it, it's just going to end up being kind of boring. But being aware of where those guide tones lines are means that when you need to resolve, when you want to show people that, yeah, okay, I really do know where I'm at, you can find those fairly easily. So don't overdo it. Don't sit there and think that I have to play guide tones all the way through. It's a great exercise, but it's not something you're going to do in your actual solo. So this is a great way to start tightening up your solos. I play through the guide tones of every tune that I learn, and it makes it so that you really start to hear the changes, and that will come out in your playing. And each time you hit a chord, it'll make your solo sound just a little bit better. And that's the goal. There'll be new videos coming on this channel every week. If you'd like me to cover a particular topic, leave a comment down below. And don't forget to download Jazz Chord Mastery Volume 1. See you next time.